Hi, I'm Marie Eldredge and I'm an educator for Handy Quilter, and we are in the American Patchwork and Quilting Crafts Lab. Look at this quilt. See all that white space? What does that do for you? Does that scare you to death, or do you get excited? When you see the stitches, you want to have quilting like that, right? On your quilting, on your quilts. And there's some tricks that we can do to get that perfect stitch, because you're going to be calling attention to your quilting if you have a quilt with all that white space. So a couple of things that I can kind of lead you in the right direction are your thread choices. So I always use a lighter weight thread in my bobbin and a little heavier in the top. I like to use a good quality thread. I think if you use good quality, you'll be happy with the results. Make sure that your machine is threaded correctly, and especially that you get it inside the tension disc. Tension is probably the biggest thing, trying to get that perfect stitch that catches right in the center. So you don't want the top pulling too hard and pulling your thread to the top. You don't want the bottom pulling too hard. So first of all, you're going to set your tension in your bobbin, get a good tension in the bobbin, and then all your adjustments are going to be made at the top. I've stitched out 3 different samples of what your stitch could look like. The first one is with the top thread too tight, and I've used 2 different colors of thread. The bobbin thread is a pink, and you can see around the bottom of this teardrop shape how it's being pulled up, and really the stitch all along there, it's not defined at all. It's kind of just a one little straight line. Along this one, the top thread is too loose. You can almost see some little burps there, almost little bobbles. So those you're going to want to change as well. On this one, the top thread is too tight. You need to loosen it. It's just too strong. You can see it being pulling to the top. On this one, the top thread is too loose. So we're going to tighten that up. This one is your great stitch that you're looking for. So you can see how each stitch is defined, and you kind of see that little valley where it tufts down in, the stitch brings it down in. So this is the look that you're looking for. Once you have a really great stitch, this is a nice design to do. I like doing this one, and it's done with the 60-degree wedge template. So we're just going to bring it in. I've actually put a couple of pieces of tape on here to remind me of how it fits in my space that I've stitched out. I'm going to bring the ruler over. I'm going to line up my grid lines. So I also have a grid line at the top. So the top of my tape is going to ride along that stitched line. I have a ruler base on. I'm using the Surefoot because it is a little higher. It's better for using with rulers. I'm just going to stitch where I have control, and here we go. So we'll go up right into the top of there, and I just slow down when I get to the part where I know I'm going to stop. So once I get to the bottom, I just slide the ruler over, line up again on the grid lines here and the grid lines at the top, and then just stitch up. Now this is a perfect place to stop and look at your stitches. These points right here, those would all be pulling up that bottom thread if things were not correct. So the second part of this design, we're going to use a straight ruler. And I like this ruler because it has a lot of grid lines on it. Now remember, when you use your rulers, that the lines are lasered into the back side. So you want to make sure that when you place your ruler, you're doing it so that the lasered side is down. That means you can read the writing. Then when you line up, your grid lines line up exactly on the line, and you're not having those distorted. So I'm going to actually space this about 4 stitches apart. That is about 1/4 inch for me, so we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to line up our ruler right on the line that we already stitched and just go up. I always slow down once I get to where I'm stopping. Then I'll just turn the ruler and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to bring my ruler back in. I might need to make sure that's correct. And down. Now when I'm going horizontal or vertical, I can do that pretty easy and stay on the line. And I'll just use the ruler to push against my hopping foot to kind of steady it. And then going on a diagonal, I always need a ruler. It's just opposite than the way the machine is balanced to go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Line up with what I've already stitched. Then I'll just use the ruler to kind of steady me going across. And you can also see the back side of your hopping foot is touching that stitching. So you know you're a 1/4 inch away. All right, so now we're down here and ready to stitch the other direction. So the other side of this, I'm going to put my ruler right on the stitching, and this time I'm going to stay parallel to this side of the triangle, or that little wedge. So up 4, I can use the ruler to go straight across, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can see as my hopping foot touches the edge of that. Now we'll go back down. I'm going to use it on the diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4. These look so great when they're all stitched out because the light catches at a different angle on the different ways that this is stitched, and it really makes a different look. You'll be able to see that on this quilt behind me. You'll see the difference in stitching these little wedges out and having the parallel lines go different ways. Okay, we're ready for the aha moment. So I'll just move the machine out of the way and you can see how great that looks. It's really easy to do and it makes a big impact on your quilt. When you're looking for that perfect stitch, it's the basics. It's your good thread, thread your machine properly, and then check your tension. Make sure that it's a balanced stitch, and you're going to love how your quilting looks on your quilts.